Welcome to the Leadership Lovers Podcast. I'm your host, Will Gladhart, CMO at the Culture Think Tank. At the Culture Think Tank, we empower leaders with metrics that strengthen culture, drive performance, and return. We're here today to learn about the actions leaders have taken to address organizational change. Our guest today is David Anderson, CEO and founder of DWA Leadership. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, let's start by having you share with our audience a bit about yourself, your background, and your organization.
All right. And in 30 minutes, or you want the 3-minute version?
The 3-minute version, please.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on today. So my name is David Anderson. I am a lifelong entrepreneur, 30 years entrepreneurs, have started numerous companies, a marketing agency that's been in business off Madison Ave for over 25 years. I have a software marketing, Marcom software company, been around 6 or 7. That's still what keeps me awake at night. I really focus now. I don't have a day-to-day role in either of those companies on working with executive teams on building high-performing teams. We all know that if you have you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have the right team in place, high-performing team, you're never going to achieve that. I do some public speaking. I sit on some boards. My past before that, I did a stint in government, which was an interesting from government to entrepreneurship. Worked in Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill, and the White House, and a bunch of other stuff. But to spare your audience of all of the details of my life, hopefully that covers it all, and you can dive in where you see appropriately from there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you don't let any dust settle as you, like many entrepreneurs, you just keep iterating or creating. So we'll be discussing 3 questions today. As a warm-up to start our conversation, would you share why you believe a healthy culture is critical?
Yeah, it's absolutely. You know what? And it took me a long time to really, actually being honest, fully understand the importance of culture in an organization and how that contributes and is actually the guiding force in building high-performing teams, which I focus so much on now. Which high-performing teams, the stats I could rattle off for another 10 minutes on the stats of how when you have the right culture, and which results in a high-performing team, increased productivity, increased efficiency, increased profitability, increased revenue growth, increased sales. The list just goes on. And that's not my stats. Just pull it up on ChatGPT, look at HBR, look at McKinsey, look at any of them will give you tons there. So really having that healthy culture, a people-focused culture with boundaries, and we can go more into that if you want, is really what drives people. And, but we also always have to keep in mind that culture means different things to different people. What culture means to my 25-year-old, I don't know, is that millennial or whatever he is, and my 22-year-old is very different than a culture for a 60-year-old that you have in an organization. And how you blend those together can definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, I think, well, one, I love that you address some of the stats because those are the things that we really dive into and love here at the Culture Think Tank, simply because there is a direct correlation between culture, well-being, and performance, productivity, bottom line return, and actually exit valuation if you're in PE, VC, and
Yep.
M&A. I love that you also touched on the multi-generational workforce because it's one of the most frequent questions we get these days. Just about, how do we manage 4 generations of people with all different perceptions of culture, all different needs, all different styles of communication. So it's been our experience that leaders tend to struggle in 3 key areas: people, process, or profits. In your role as a leader, but also with working with high-performing or building high-performing teams, could you identify which of these areas has presented a cultural challenge in your own organization or in another group that you've worked with?
Yeah, so I got through college by checking the box, all of the above. Those all lead into it. And, it's really interesting. A lot of what I work with now is I love working with growth-oriented companies that are really focused on growth, not necessarily the stable. And what I found is where culture needs to form and evolve, because cultures absolutely need to evolve, is first is as companies go from, and there's the five, there's different theories, but the five, I like the 7 stages of growth that companies go through. As those companies grow, and a lot of them are tied to not only revenue, but the number of people that you have in the organization, process becomes a key factor in managing and sustaining growth. Because you go, like, even in my own companies, 3 people sitting around a room yelling over our shoulder, we need this, we need that, we need this, to 21 people, which is one of the first next steps, and then 49 or whatever it is,
50.
as yeah, whatever it is, as you go through, how the process becomes so key to organizational growth. Now, as an entrepreneur, what do I despise more than anything else? Dave, you have to follow the process.
Exactly.
So it's usually us leaders that are the ones that are causing some of the biggest problems around the process, because, we just don't do a good job following it. Moving forward with that, the people mix in my book, I talk about, and when I'm public speaking, I talk about being a leader is like being a chemist, because it's the constantly changing of the formulas that you need to have to maximize your end product, whether that's a chemical, a pharmaceutical, whatever it is. It's really, it's chemistry. And we as leaders, those trying to build, maintain, and grow cultures, evolve cultures, it's being a chemist every day. When you bring in a new president, senior level person or something, that's going to change the culture, or it can affect the culture. And how do you change the chemistry around that with the person, the people, and all of that? And those two, I think the third P you talked about was profits, right? Well,
Yes.
you don't have profits. You don't have profits without P1 and P2.
Exactly.
I'm in marketing because it's about as simple of math as you can do. I don't need to know anything more than plus and subtraction in most cases in running our company. And P1 plus P2 equals P3, in this case, equals profit. And if one of those two aren't operating most efficiently, you can still have profits, but you're definitely not maximizing your profit potential.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that you bring up you share a little bit more about those challenges, but also dive a little deeper into the people element, but also the process, because I know from experience as a leader like yourself, or even a fellow entrepreneur, that sometimes the process feels very burdensome. It gets in the way of like either creativity, next steps, going out and selling, whatever that is. But if that structure isn't there, you can't grow to the next level and you tend to plateau, et cetera. So kind of explain that challenge. Was there any particular negative impact on the organization in that as you were working through that people process or profit element?
I think in a growing company, one of the challenges you have where people and process can conflict is when you start a business and your first 5, 8, 9, 10 people are on board. And then you go to the next level and you put process on them, and they get more and more removed from maybe the leader or the leadership things. Natural, our egos are natural. I'm not criticizing, just our natural egos is, I'm less important around here, my roles changed, I used to be involved in everything, now I'm not. And how you manage that can be very challenging going through that, because there's a lot of brain chemistry involved, in all of that that goes into how people react to that. And as a leader, the ability to constantly reinforce, reassure people their role, the importance that they play, it's just a bigger piece of the pie, and we need you to do other things, is one area. Plus, a lot of times too, people are like is it 3 words? 6 words. This is how we used to do it, is the,
Oh.
6 words I despise more than any 6 words in business. And that comes to the right people mix as well. This is how we've always done it. Well, that's great when we were $1 million company and 12 of us, and now we're a $5 million company and 25 of us. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And if I can say one more thing about this, one of my absolute favorite books I coach about, I'm a Marshall Goldsmith certified coach. Marshall Goldsmith, I think, sums it up the best, is what got you here won't get you there.
Yes.
And that's 100% how you have to manage the evolution, not change, the evolution of your culture as the people and process part grow.
Yeah, I think it's really impactful that you touched on the part about helping people understand their role and the constant communication required, because we've heard from CEOs from the horse's mouth of, well, my employees don't really know what they're doing. My employees seem like they're lazy. And it literally comes back that the leader has not been clear in communication, in direction, in next steps for leaders, managers, etc. So people are just ping-ponging around, or there is the quiet quitters that people have just stopped working and they
Uh,
come to work. It means something a little different now that we're all back in the full swing of the business world. But yeah, it's been really interesting to kind of see that change and movement happen. But the disconnect of what the leader perceives versus what actually the employee experiences is something that's really important to bring up. So thank you for sharing that. So if could you share with us maybe the one thing that you identified that helped impact your culture, or how you've helped with that high performance team area?
yeah, a couple things is going back to what you just said. That's why I work with teams, not just CEOs, because it's a combination of issues. And when a CEO says that, or a leader, it's like you want to hold up a mirror, right? My team, my team, my team, or
Right.
play Michael Jackson's song, Take a Look in the Mirror, or whatever it was.
Man, yep.
And that's a lot of what needs to be done is you just have to, what got you here won't get you there going forward. The question you asked me was a particular instance. Is that what you said? Or
Yeah,
what, say
particular
that
like
again?
one thing you identified that helped impact your culture, or a team that you worked with positively.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you would agree with me for the CEOs listening, entrepreneurs, owners, even CEOs to a level. Leaders can discuss and set the tone for the direction, but it's the people below you that set the culture. You don't set the culture. You have a wish list of what you want the culture to be, but it's really the team because I know leaders who say the culture of my company is this, and then I go talk to their team and they're like, that's not the culture of this, that's a
Right.
fantasy, that's what he or she thinks. So I firmly believe that it is every single organization has influencers below the leadership that will have a very significant, not a total, but a very significant role on the culture. And it's just like we need to be doing all the time. We need to be growing the people below us. We need to be communicating with the people below us. We need them to be the ones that say to their peers, no, that's not how we do this around here, not the CEO or COO or senior leader, because it's peer to peer then. And that's where that grows there. So literally one of my clients now, oh, what's the culture of your company? And then I talk to their team and they're, oh, yeah, that's in his mind. That's really not how it is at all. So, what we as leaders need is somebody who can give us reality checks and tell us what's really going on and how to adjust things. We need leader interpreters, as I call them, translators, stuff like that that can help formulate it's not a one person job of creating the culture. It's the full team.
Right. Well, I really love that you shared that CEO or leader disconnect, because we statistically, in several of our white papers and research we've done, we see an almost 52% perception gap of what the employee actually says or believes their role or the culture is at an organization versus what the CEO or C-suite is actually determined or think it is. You're preaching to the choir on that particular piece, and yeah, it's very fascinating, but I think you also have a really great positive message to share with leaders about thinking about that communication, the culture, the constant observation of what's happening at the company. So, is there anything else you'd like to add or share with fellow leaders?
Yeah, I mean, the best cultures that an organization will have, again, not Dave's research, pick any of them, and I'm interested in yours, Will, are the organizations that foster a culture of psychological safety. one where everybody feels they're heard. Doesn't mean that it goes their way, but everyone feels they're heard. Everyone is comfortable raising issues. Everyone is comfortable respectfully challenging each other, because we know that through collaboration and brainstorm, not conflict, the only difference between brainstorm and conflict is when ego gets in the way, is where it leads to the best outcomes for the organizations. And when the organization is winning in total, the people are winning in total. There's more growth opportunities. There's more opportunities to learn and grow. There's, people want to go to work for the companies with the great cultures. Yeah, there's a financial aspect to it, but even more and more with the current generations, and that it's a lot less about the money and things. And just don't make the same mistake I made for the first, I don't know, at least half of my career, if not more, of underestimating the value of the people and the culture that is created and how that directly ties to the performance of your company overall.
That's a really excellent way to wrap up our session. So, David, I've enjoyed having you on our Leadership Lovers podcast. Thanks again for your insights.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Leadership Lovers podcast. Find all our Leadership Lovers episodes on the Culture Think Tank website at www.theculturethinktank.com or listen on your favorite streaming platform. We'd love to hear from you about the challenges you have faced as a leader. Tune in weekly as we invite leaders to share their experiences in strengthening culture and performance, one action at a time.